everybody. I'm back here again for story time, and oh, I am chewing a big piece of bubble gum. It's been a long time since I've chewed bubble gum or tried to blow a bubble. I bet all of you are pretty good at it. I've been practicing. I'm going to try one. That one didn't work. I'm going to try one more. Oh, that was pretty good. I gotta say that when I was little, I was a champion bubble blower. I could blow like this big, but sometimes it would stick on my face or pop and get in my hair. What a mess. And I don't know if you guessed it or not, but today's stories are going to be about bubble gum. Bubble gum, bubble gum. So I'm going to, excuse me a minute, take the bubble gum out, wrap it up to throw it away, so you can understand me reading the story. And my first one is by Jim Romer, and the publisher is, now this is a strange one, I've never heard of this publisher before, but it is ARG, like a pirate, publishing. Yep. So, a really big tale, Bobby's biggest bubble. This is Bobby. Now one day, Bobby received a large envelope from the mailman. Inside was a letter from the Big Buddy Bubblegum Company. The letter said that Bobby was the grand prize winner of the very special bubblegum contest and that his prize was on its way. The next day, a huge crate was delivered in front of Bobby's house. Opening the crate was very difficult, and after some time though, Bobby and his friends slowly began to pry the crate open until suddenly, boom! The crate burst open and out poured thousands and thousands of shiny gumballs. Bobby found a note in the crate, and it said the gumballs were called the Super Duper Wubble Bubble Really Gummy Gumballs. Some gumballs were bouncy, some were chewy, a few felt like rubber, while the others were gooey. Bobby smiled. He had a few ideas. First, Bobby molded animal statues out of chewed bubblegum. Bobby's friend Otter made strips of bubblegum and wrapped it around his entire body like a gummy mummy. Bobby and Otter played a game of marbles with the gumballs, and then they had a balancing contest to see who could balance the most bubbles at one time. Then Bobby tied two big bubbles on his feet, which allowed him to bounce very high. And to bounce even higher, Bobby invented a gummy trampoline. Boing, boing! Then, Bobby created a pair of gumshoes so he could walk up the sides of the trees and the walls. It was Otto's idea to gather up all of the gumballs into a gigantic pile. They called it Mount Gummy. And while sitting at the top of Mount Gummy, Bobby thought of the greatest idea of all. He was going to make the biggest bubblegum bubble in the world. To make the biggest bubble in the world, Bobby needed a huge amount of bubble gum. So Bobby started chewing while Otter used a shovel to stuff him full of gumballs. Bobby kept on chewing and chewing, adding more and more and more and more gumballs until he could no longer fit another gumball into his mouth. Bobby began to inhale and took a very, very, very big breath, and finally he was ready to create the biggest bubblegum bubble in the world. At first, Bobby had a very hard time trying to start the bubble with so much gum in his mouth. Soon, though, the bubble began to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Bobby's mother was preparing dinner when he entered the kitchen with the bubble. And she said, "Bobby, I can't make dinner. Your bubble's too big." She told Bobby to take the bubble outside. There was no more room in the kitchen for Bobby's biggest bubble. Bobby and Otter ran outside, and the bubble grew bigger and bigger. Bobby's dad was just arriving home from work when he said, "Bobby, I can't park my car. Your bubble's too big." He asked Bobby to head towards town. There was no more room in front of the house for Bobby's biggest bubble. So Bobby and Otter jogged to the center of town, and the bubble gum grew bigger and bigger. The market owner, Mrs. Applebottom, was sweeping when the bubble's huge shadow covered her shop, and she cried to Bobby, "Bobby, people can't find my store. Your bubble's too big." She suggested that Bobby should head to the park. There was no room in the center of town for Bobby's biggest bubble. Bobby and Otter stumbled into the park, and the bubble grew bigger and bigger. Old Mr. Crumple was sitting on the park bench. As he saw the bubble enter the park, he could no longer see the birds or the flowers or the trees, and Mr. Crumple yelled out to Bobby, "Bobby, I can't see the park. Your bubble's too big." He insisted that Bobby go to the hills on the outskirts of town. There was no room in the park for Bobby's biggest bubble. Bobby and Otter climbed all the way up the top of the tallest hill. The bubble grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Nearby, Professor Nostuff came running out of his observatory, screaming out loud, "Bobby, I can't see the stars, the moon, or the meteor that's heading this way. Your bubble's too big." Otter asked the professor, "Oh, excuse me, Professor Nostuff, but did you say a giant meteor is headed towards us?" "Yes, a huge rock from outer space is heading towards our town." The professor was so nervous, he bumped into Bobby and caused him to spit out his bubblegum. Bobby's biggest bubble blasted upward to the sky like an unknotted balloon. Higher and higher, Bobby's biggest bubble rose into the sky until, boing, pop! The meteor bounced off the bubble and skyrocketed back into outer space, never to return again. The next day, Bobby and Otter were all over the news. Bobby's biggest bubble was destroyed by the meteor, but the town was saved. The townspeople cheered for Bobby and Otter as they were carried in a parade through the streets. They were national heroes. And it would take several months to clean up all the scattered bubblegum. Slowly, everything was returning back to normal. Well, that was until Bobby won 1,000,000 pounds of Jolly Belly jelly. But then, that's a whole other story. The end. Wow. Lots of bubble. Lots of bubble. Well, I have one other little story for those of you who might be like kindergarten, first grade. And this is Franklin and the Bubblegum. So, Franklin and the Bubblegum. It's by Sharon Jennings. And the publisher, oh, I saw this before and then I forgot, Kids Can Press. So Franklin can tie his shoes. Franklin can count by twos, and Franklin can't get into trouble. Franklin doesn't want to get into trouble. He doesn't mean to get into trouble, but trouble happens. One day, Franklin saw a penny on the sidewalk. Said Franklin. Granny always says, find a penny and pick it up. All the day you'll have good luck. So Franklin picked up the penny. Then he ran to the candy store. A new gumball machine stood in front of Mr. Mole's store. Franklin put in his penny and he turned the handle. A red gumball fell out. A blue gumball fell out. Wow, said Franklin. Then he held his hat under the spout because all the gumballs fell out. I did find a lucky penny, said Franklin. Franklin ran to find his friends. Look, he shouted. I found a lucky penny and look. Everyone looked. I got all this gum from Mr. Mole's new gumball machine. Whoa, said everyone. Franklin shared the gumballs with his friends. I can chew 5 gumballs at once, said Rabbit. I can chew 10, said Bear. I can blow the biggest bubble, said Franklin. And Franklin blew a gigantic bubble and pop! I love bubble gum, said Franklin, all over his face. Just then Beaver rode into the park. Guess what? She shouted. Mr. Mole's been robbed. Oh, that's terrible, said Franklin. Someone took all Mr. Mole's bubble gum, said Beaver. That's terrible, said Franklin. Who would have... Oh, he stopped talking. Everyone turned to look at Franklin. Uh-oh. Wait a minute, said Beaver. Why are all of you chewing gum? Well, Franklin gave it to us, said Bear. Franklin told Beaver about the lucky penny. Well, there's no such thing as a lucky penny, said Beaver. Well, it sure wasn't a lucky penny for Mr. Mole, said Franklin. So Franklin sat down to think. I have to give Mr. Mole his gum back. Ooh, Beaver said, it's already been chewed. So Franklin did more thinking. I know, he said. I'll pay Mr. Mole for the gum. Everyone ran to Franklin's house, and Franklin grabbed his piggy bank. He shook out all the pennies. Let's go, he said, and everyone ran to the candy store. The gumball machine was still empty, and Franklin put the penny in the slot. He turned the handle, put another penny in. Turned the handle, put another penny in. Turned the handle, put another penny in. Hurry up, said Beaver. Franklin just put in the last penny when no one saw Mr. Mole come outside. Wait, said Mr. Mole. Don't put a penny into the empty machine. Well, Mr. Mole unlocked the lid. He poured a bag of gumballs. Someone stole my gum this morning, said Mr. Mole. And everyone looked at Franklin. Franklin kind of looked up in the sky, and he looked down at the ground, and he jiggled from foot to foot, and finally he said, well, Mr. Mole, you see, Mr. Mole, Franklin stole your gum, said Beaver. I didn't, said Franklin. Well, I did, but I didn't want to. I didn't mean to. I had a lucky penny, and all your gum fell out. But Franklin paid you back, said Bear. He just put all his pennies in your gumball machine. Thought Mr. Mole. So Mr. Mole put a penny in the gumball machine and he turned the handle. A red gumball fell out. A blue gumball fell out. Uh-oh, said Franklin. And he grabbed his hat because all the gumballs fell out. Thought Mr. Mole, this machine is broken. See, Franklin, said Beaver, I told you there's no such thing as a lucky penny. Oh, said Franklin, oh, am I in trouble? No, said Mr. Mole, you were very honest about an honest mistake. Franklin nodded his head. So thank you, said Mr. Mole. You may keep all the bubble gum. Hoo-hoo, said Franklin, I love bubble gum. "See, Beaver," said Franklin, "I told you it was a lucky penny." So they wound up getting even more bubble gum. That was kind of cool. So that was our story with Franklin, and we do have a take and make. It is, as we saw in 2 stories, a gumball machine. Well, the gumballs, and if you look in your packet, you'll see one that's brown. It's the penny. Not a real penny, but it's the penny. And again, if you want to create this however you'd like, Miss Nancy made this for me to show you, and she just had 1 gumball come out. But it's up to you. You could have all the gumballs coming out. You could have more gumballs in there. Decorate it, create however you'd like to. You can pick up a take and make from the library, or have Mom and Dad call and make arrangements to pick up a take and make from the library. And before we go, I just wanted to share with you, we have some other things here at the library that is about gum or bubble gum. We have a CD, and this CD is really called A Child's Celebration of Rock and Roll, but there's a song on here called "Does Your Chewing Gum Lose Its Flavor on the Bedpost Overnight?" That might be fun to hear. And now we have some juvenile books for those of you who are reading chapter books. And this one is the Ghost Detective series, and it's called Pop. Just to let you know a little bit of what it's about, Malcolm and Dandy have added a new gadget to their ghost hunting gear, X-Specs. Those miraculous glasses are supposed to have X-ray vision, but all they seem to do is hypnotize whoever looks at them. This comes in handy when boys battle some vicious bubblegum that's stuck in their Halloween treats. But who's controlling the creeping confection? It'll take all of the ghost detecting tools to pop this case. Interesting to find out. Also, there's Amazing Gum Girl, Choose Her Destiny. Now this is Gabby Gomez. She chews bubble gum every chance she gets, but when her mom says no more gum, Gabby's love of chewing blows up in her face and it stretches her to her limits. The story is bursting with extra gooey, gummy goodness. It's another fun one. This is almost like a graphic novel. There is some text, but also a graphic novel. If you'd like to know how gum was founded or how it came about, we have William Wrigley Jr., Wrigley's chewing gum founder. This is the man who founded chewing gum. Wrigley's chewing gum, that is. So if you're looking for some information, this is a good book. And this is Pop, the invention of bubble gum. And look what it has on the back. Yeah, a bubble gum machine. But this talks about gum was around for centuries. The ancient Greeks chewed the sap from a tree. The American Indians chewed spruce resin. Men in top hats and women in puffy hats chewed gum to cure stomach aches. And gum wasn't exciting. But what if gum chewers could blow bubbles while they were chewing it? You could find out all that information in this book, Pop. Now this one is a storybook, Chavella and the Magic Bubble. This one actually has a few Spanish words in the story. And Chavella, she loves to chomp chewing gum. Chica, it's called, chica. And she loves blowing bubbles even more. And one day she finds a mysterious kind of gum that she had never seen before. So after popping it in her mouth, she blows a giant bubble and she lifts up into the air. Bubble takes her on a journey more magical than anyone could ever imagine. Luscious candy-colored paintings and stories and fantastic. I think you'd really like this story. And actually in the front, it even explains how to pronounce some of the words. The word C-H-I-C-L-E is pronounced chicle in Spanish, and it's a word for chewing gum. English chicle, pronounced chicle, chickle, or chickle as a pickle. And it refers to the sap in natural chewing gums. And this is a story that appears with the words in script. So I think you would enjoy this story because it would have a few Spanish words. And this is a ridiculously funny story. It's called On Account of the Gum. Child gets gum caught in their hair. And we have to find out all these silly things that might happen to try to get gum out of the hair. Yeah. And, oh, now it happened. You got gum stuck in your hair. It's cool. I can fix it. Hold on, hold still. Weird. That wasn't supposed to happen. But maybe if, that wasn't supposed to happen either. But hopefully, maybe, ooh, that wasn't supposed to happen either. So I think you may enjoy this story about one on account of the gum. Now my last one is a picture book. David Goes to School. Now some of you may know the David books. David always gets into trouble. And I just thought to close out my story time, it might be fun just to see this one picture, because I thought it was kind of funny. And now I have to find it. Because David is getting in trouble, all kinds of trouble when he's in school. And of course, one of the rules is don't chew gum. And of course, what does Bobby? I started to say Bobby because that was another story. But what does David do? Don't chew gum in class. And there it is. So you may want to pick this book up just to enjoy some funny reading. So that's our story time for today. We were geared toward the kindergarten through 4th grade. But as I say, everyone can enjoy a good story. So I'm Mrs. Can or Miss Diane. I hope to see you all in the library real soon. I miss you. I send everybody hugs. And y'all take care. And, oh, I do have my mask because I have my vaccination. But I'm going to go out into the library and there are a few people there. So I will put on my mask just to be safe for everyone. Bye-bye.